something unbelievable is about to happen, but only to those who believe in magic. Are you ready? There are stories we grow up hearing, tales whispered by the wind, carried through generations, wrapped in magic and mystery. But some stories hide deeper shadows, jealous hearts, impossible beauty, and a battle between innocence and evil. Today, I'll tell you a timeless story, one that begins in the heart of winter, with a wish that would change a kingdom forever. Hey there, welcome to The Honest Voice, where we dive into the funniest, weirdest, and most unbelievable stories you won't see anywhere else. If you love laughing, learning, and discovering hidden gems online, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And if you enjoy what you see, give it a like and share it with your friends. It really helps us grow. Long ago, during a harsh and silent winter, snow covered the land in a vast blanket of white. In the real palace, a gentle queen sat near her tall, ebony-framed window, quietly sewing as snowflakes drifted down from the sky. As she pushed the needle through the cloth, it slipped and pricked her finger. A few drops of bright red blood fell onto the fresh snow that had gathered upon the window edge. Captivated by the striking contrast of the deep red against the pure white, she murmured softly to herself, almost like a prayer carried on the cold wind. She wished for a child whose skin would be as pale as the snow before her, whose lips would carry the rich redness of her spilled blood, and whose hair would be as dark as the ebony wood around the window. Time passed, and her wish came true. The queen gave birth to a little girl whose appearance matched the beautiful image she had imagined. Her skin glowed like untouched snow, her lips were stunning deep red, and her hair was black and glossy as the darkest night. Filled with love and awe, they named the child Snow White. But joy rarely stays forever, and soon after her daughter's birth, the queen fell gravely ill and passed away, leaving the king and baby Snow White in sorrow. A full year slipped by, and the king, wishing to provide stability for his kingdom and a mother for his daughter, married again. His new wife was a woman of rare outward beauty, consumed inwardly by pride, vanity, and jealousy. She owned a magical mirror that answered every question with truth. Every day she stood before it admiring herself, asking the same familiar question. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all? The mirror always responded with the words she longed to hear. You, my queen, are the fairest of all. These simple words soothed her arrogance and kept her satisfied. But as the years passed, Snow White grew into a radiant child, glowing with a gentle loveliness that came from both her looks and her kind heart. By the time she was only 7 years old, she possessed a beauty that began to surpass that of the queen. One morning, the queen approached her magic mirror, expecting to hear the same comforting reply as always. But the mirror spoke differently this time. It declared that though she was still fair, Snow White had now become fairer than her. The queen's heart burned with fury, her envy twisted into hatred so intense that she could barely bring herself to look at the child. Each passing day made her resentment grow sharper, until finally she could no longer bear the thought of Snow White being alive. In a voice cold with wickedness, she commanded one of the palace huntsmen to take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her. She demanded proof. Snow White's heart returned to her as confirmation of the girl's death. Obedient, but heavy-hearted, the huntsman led the innocent girl into the shadows of the forest. When he raised his knife as ordered, Snow White, trembling with fear, pleaded for her life. Tears streamed down her face as she begged him not to harm her, promising she would flee and never return to the castle. Something within the huntsman softened. He could not bring himself to kill someone so pure and gentle. He lowered his knife and urged her to run far into the woods, to disappear from the kingdom forever. To deceive the queen, he later killed a wild boar and brought its heart to the palace, claiming it belonged to Snow White. Believing the gruesome lie, the queen had the heart cooked and ate it, certain she had destroyed her rival. Meanwhile, Snow White wandered alone in the dense forest. Towering trees surrounded her, their branches creaking in the wind. Every distant rustle made her jump, wondering if danger lurked nearby. Weak, frightened, and exhausted, she stumbled deeper into the woods unsure where she was going or how she would survive. As the sun slowly sank and the sky turned golden, she spotted a tiny house tucked in a clearing. Desperate for shelter, she approached it. Inside, she found everything arranged neatly and in a strangely small-sized 7 tiny plates, 7 cups, and 7 little beds lined up in a row. She tasted a bit of food from each plate to ease her hunger and sipped a little water from each cup. Then she tried each bed one by one until she found one that fit her comfortably. As night fell, she drifted into a peaceful sleep. Later that evening, 7 dwarfs returned from their long day of mining in the mountains. The moment they stepped inside, they sensed something was wrong. Someone had been in their home. They noticed their chairs moved, their food tasted, and their cups used. When they approached the bedroom area, they discovered a beautiful girl sleeping in one of their beds. Though surprised, their gentle hearts were moved by her delicate appearance. They quietly let her rest through the night, taking turns sharing beds so she wouldn't be disturbed. When dawn arrived, Snow White awoke and found the 7 little men gathered around her. Startled at first, she quickly realized they were kind souls. They asked her where she had come from and how she ended up in their house. Snow White told them everything: her cruel stepmother, the huntsman's mercy, and her desperate escape into the forest. The dwarfs listened closely and then offered her a safe home if she would cook, clean, sew, and keep the cottage in order. She could stay with them. In return, they promised to protect her. Grateful and relieved, Snow White agreed. Before the dwarfs left each morning for work in the mountains, they warned her never to open the door for anyone. Her stepmother, they said, would eventually discover she was alive, and they were right. Back at the castle, the queen approached her mirror again, confident in her belief that Snow White was dead. But when she asked who was the fairest, the mirror revealed a truth that shattered her pride. Snow White still lived, far beyond the hills, under the care of 7 dwarfs. Enraged, the queen disguised herself as an old peddler woman and journeyed across mountains to the dwarf's cottage. Snow White, seeing no harm in an elderly woman selling ribbons and lace, let her in. The queen laced Snow White's bodice so tightly that the girl collapsed, breathless. When the dwarfs returned, they found her lifeless until they discovered the cause and loosened the lace, bringing her back. They warned her again. She must never open the door, no matter what. But the queen was relentless. When the mirror confirmed Snow White had survived once more, she crafted a deadly poison and comb and disguised herself again. This time she tricked Snow White from the window, and as soon as the comb touched her hair, she fell unconscious. Again, the dwarfs came home and saved her by removing the comb. Still not defeated, the queen created her most dangerous plan yet: a beautiful apple, red on one side, poisoned on the other. Disguised as a humble farmer woman, she offered Snow White half the apple, pretending to eat the harmless side. Trusting the jester, Snow White bit into the poison part and collapsed instantly. This time, no effort the dwarfs made could wake her. Heartbroken, they laid her in a glass coffin upon the mountain. Unable to bury someone so lovely, days passed, and Snow White remained as beautiful as ever, as though she were merely sleeping. One day, a prince traveling through the forest came upon the coffin. He read the golden inscription and was struck by her beauty and the sorrow surrounding her. He begged the dwarfs to let him take the coffin to his castle, promising to honor her forever. Reluctantly, they agreed. As the prince's servants carried the coffin, they stumbled over a root, and the sudden jolt dislodged the piece of poisoned apple from Snow White's throat. Her eyes fluttered open. Confused but alive, she asked where she was. The prince, overwhelmed with joy, asked her to come with him and become his queen. Snow White agreed with a radiant smile. A grand wedding followed, and the whole kingdom celebrated. The wicked queen, still believing Snow White to be dead, prepared for the event unaware of who the bride truly was. But when she asked her mirror once more who was the fairest, she received the answer she feared most. She attended the feast only to discover the truth. A punishment awaited her. She was forced to dance in burning iron shoes until she fell, never to threaten anyone again. Snow White and the prince ruled with wisdom and kindness. The dwarfs visited often and were always welcomed as honored guests. Peace returned to the kingdom, and Snow White's story became a symbol of innocence, bravery, and the triumph of goodness over evil. From that day on, they all lived in harmony, grateful for the adventures that had shaped their lives. Thanks for watching till the end. If this story moved you, then remember your journey isn't over. Every struggle you face today is shaping the future you're meant to live. So don't stop now. Before you go, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video with someone who needs this message right now. This is Honest Voice, where stories inspire and inspiration becomes action. See you in the next one.